Welcome to Season 2 of the Ambitious Broker Podcast, the real estate industry's #1 show covering the most important insights and principles you need to succeed in your career. This show is brought to you by Escrow Technologies, committed to delivering an uncompromised escrow experience since 1983. Visit escrowtech.net for more information. Please welcome the host of the Ambitious Broker Podcast, your real estate industry mentor and coach, Roger Hance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ambitious Broker. And I've been waiting for quite some time to start doing some things around business models and the various business models in real estate. And then this big event happened in the San Fernando Valley, and it happened around you. Harma. So everyone meet Harma. Those of you who don't know Harma, Harma is a mover and a shaker. And I've had the privilege of knowing you for a long time. We've had some fun, and I've had a chance to watch you over, 16 years, something like that?
It's been 16 years.
Since you started, and it's been really fun, actually, to watch what you do, because you do things in your own way, and we're kind of kindred spirits in that way. Very independent people, and I love that about you. And to watch you go through your evolution has been fun. So let's talk about it real quickly.
Sure.
First of all, you started in 2009?
In real estate?
Yes, in real estate.
2004.
2004.
Sorry, 2003.
2003.
As an assistant, yes.
As an assistant. That's where you started?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. I was an assistant to a top producer, and I was going to be dentist. So I was going back to school every night.
Oh, you were going to be a dentist?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Thank God.
What a different path. Move a little closer. I'm not sure how it's going to.
Awesome.
I want to make sure that we hear everything you have to say. So then you're going to school to be a dentist, be an assistant in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And how'd you get into real estate? What even got you to do that?
I was very broke. I moved here, and I brought my sister and my brother and my mom, and we were very broke. And I realized one day that one of us have to suffer. I brought them unresponsible. So I got a job with a broker. I begged him. He wouldn't hire me for a couple of weeks, but I showed up every day. And then he hired me. He gave me $2,000 and he said, "You're my assistant."
Is that right?
And I remember he threw a folder on my desk and said, "Open an escrow." And I thought that escrow is a box that you open. I didn't know.
That's
so
funny.
I find an escrow officer card, it says Carla. And I called, and she called me. She said, "Come to my office. I'll help you open one." I drove there, and she was basically my mentor. She taught me the RPA, the contract, the disclosures, every single thing. And
wow!
And then my broker said, "Hey, get your license. You will be good at it." I said, "Nope, I'm going to be dentist. I'm going to make my family proud." And then I fell in love. I sold 21 homes on the first year in real estate.
When you switched over?
I quit completely. And
what kind of company were you working for?
Small independent in Glendale. Yeah, his name is Albert Babayan. He's still, I will say, it's like my father. He has done so much for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And you said you brought your family here from?
Iran. I was born here, but I was 30 days old, moved to Iran. So I grew up all my life back home in Iran.
Oh, no kidding. So you were born here?
Born here.
And then went to Iran.
Yeah, 30 days old. Yeah, moved back.
Kidding.
And usually people move forward in life.
Yes.
My parents decided to go backwards. And which I think is one of the best thing happened to me, because knowing people around me, sometimes I think I was not privileged. I didn't have much. My dad was pretty tough growing up, so I had to survive that environment. And being Christian, growing up, going to different schools, and because I was bullied a lot, I moved my school so I can have a new journey so people wouldn't know about me. So it was a lot. So when I moved back here, I had a car accident. I'm sure you know that. I hit a car, my car broke. My car totally was damaged, and I jumped out of the car, nothing happened to me, and another car hit me. So my both legs broke. And by the time I did like 3 surgeries and I was recovering, I was 11 months into it. I moved here with a walker and just barely could move. 3 days into it, I said, I'm not coming back. Then I managed somehow to convince my dad to bring my sister, my brother, and my mom.
To America.
To America. And we were all U.S. citizens, but we were just never lived here. My sister was born here. My mom had her citizenship for a long time.
Right.
So I moved all of them here. So it was an easy flying in, but we also went through the same thing anyone who was an immigrant will go through, because we couldn't speak English. We had to adjust.
You spoke no English?
I couldn't speak English, no.
Really?
Yeah.
So you had to learn all that?
Yep, I did.
Wow. So you had an interesting path.
I did.
Wow.
I adapted fast. I loved it. I just, I liked, partially I thought I was escaping everything else that I had in my life. And then I realized I'm just different. And then sooner I accepted myself, it was easier to fly higher.
And different in that you were...
Everything, all about the way I thought about others and the way I thought you let them be versus, when grow up in a culture or society, the religion, the society decides, right? They can even decide how you're going to die. You don't decide how you want to die.
Right.
So back home, it's backwards. It's a beauty into it, but the whole thing is decided.
Right.
I was supposed to marry a woman that my dad will be okay. What called the woman? And who knew I will come out and be comfortable and be in a relationship with someone for 20 years. And I have kids now. When you come out, you don't have kids. You just kind of bury that dream. So now I have kids and I'm living a different life. So I was just different from my life, the way I thought about it, the way I was protecting my mother back home, no matter what the dad, the father decides.
Were you getting a view of America? What was your perception of America? Was it through your parents' eyes?
I was not allowed to talk about America at home because my dad will slap me. It was just not allowed because he had this fear that I'm going to leave. Oh. And it came through.
And he was right.
And it was, I didn't know much because all I knew, my grandparents lived here, my aunt lived here. They had a great life. They lived in this city called Los Angeles that everybody talks about. That's it. I didn't know much. I didn't even know that everyone has their rights to be who they are. Right. I had no idea. Right. I even struggled with that the first 2 years.
Just here. Independence, freedom.
Yeah, never thought about that. And then when I realized how much you can do, and some people get lost and they abuse it in a wrong way.
You're right.
And then I realized that early on that I can build whatever I want if I just...
part of why I started doing this is exactly what you're talking about, in that, because I have a different background, but same thing, parents didn't go to school, and it was like, they're from the South, and we came here, and I got to see other people with great wealth, and, we were poor, basically, and so all of a sudden, real estate was an opportunity to change your life, and in your case, it was America and real estate. And
everything was brand new for me.
Particularly in today's environment, to appreciate how much America gives you. Mm-hmm. And I look around and so many people are missing the perception of that opportunity. And when you don't see it, you don't chase it, right? You saw it, but you tasted it.
Yeah, my biggest goal is to take my kids and travel and while they're getting education, because it's overrated here, going public school, private school, all the math. I just want to make sure they appreciate what they have. Right. And I hope we will have it for a long time, but I want to make sure the other people don't make decisions. Girls in so many countries, they can't be who they are. Right. Guys in gay, straight, doesn't matter, whatever it is, it's a lot of things are decided, and the society also decides how far you can go. Even look at me, I thought I wouldn't be a dentist because I want to make someone else proud. Right. And then I fell in love with real estate. I'm like, why on earth I want to go be a dentist? And look at now, I thought I'm going to sell real estate, and I'm not even selling.
It's a big part of succeeding in general, right? To find yourself and to get confidence in yourself and chase it. Just quit worrying about everybody else is thinking about you. To your point, make someone else proud. No, make you proud, and that will make people proud, right?
Absolutely. All my life I have gotten so many unsolicited advice, and usually they're free. Right. And when things free, it's not good.
Right. So that's right. Giving advice to people who don't pay is also usually a waste of time as well. So now you got into sales. You did pretty good. You had 21 deals your first year, I think, and then went on to do more.
Yes. The third year, I left my broker. I joined a fastest growing real estate company then with Keller Williams. And I interviewed a bunch of other companies. No one wanted me. And, they're like, you're not local, you're not good, and all the rejections I got from Berkshire.
So you went from the small independent.
I wanted to leave the location. I was in Glendale. I didn't want to be in Glendale, so I left. Went to Beverly Hills. I became very insecure. I interviewed a very big agent. Everybody knows her, and I became so insecure in the meeting with her. I felt I don't fit in. I don't have expensive clothes. I can't do it.
Right.
It wasn't me. Then I came back to the Valley. I interviewed a lot of offices in Studio City. Felt, okay, this is where I can be who I am. At the same time, it's different, and I will blend in. And I interviewed a bunch of other companies, and I joined. Cobo Banker said, you're not producing enough. Prudential at that time, the manager said, why are you having a meeting with me? You don't. You need to talk to sales managers, not me. I'm the branch manager, and you certain level, then you can talk to me. So I said, let me go get my resume, and I walked out. I was so insecure. I said, that's it. I'm not joining there. And then finally, I joined a company called Remax, and Remax OTB at that time was the hot company that had a valet, and I had a brand new Mercedes, that I was so proud of that I purchased. Which, knowing what I know today, I would have never bought it. I was so broke, and yet I had a nice car. Didn't know how to keep my money. So anyway, I pulled in, I paid my E&O was $1,800. I wrote a check. They took the check, and they said, great, you can start. I paid. I came down. I was calling my partner, and I said, I'm so excited. I'm going to join this company. Remax, the best company here. And then I see people in the driveway, as they're getting their car pulled in, and they have boxes, and they're emptying their offices. And I said, how are you? My name is Harma. I'm just joined. They're like, oh, why? I said, I thought, it's a great company. They're like, oh, no, they're consolidating. And I said, what is consolidating? And so I called my partner and I said, what does that mean? He said, it's called shutting down. And I was like, oh my God, I just paid him. So I walked back up on the stairs. I remember white stairs. I walked up, I grabbed my check, and I walked down.
Really?
And I said, where are you guys going? They said, we're going across the street to this company called Keller Williams. I went there, I interviewed, I fell in love with the manager. I didn't even care about what the company offered because the manager cared.
Right.
And I joined, and first 5 months, I didn't sell anything, so I thought I made a mistake. And then the 6th month, I had 7 transactions.
So what were you doing to generate business? Because the one thing I've learned about you, and you are a tenacious dude. You are a tenacious human being, aren't you? You're smiling. You're laughing at me. You know what's funny is that I have found in interviewing a lot of really top people, high productive people, that probably at the top of the list is some tenaciousness or competitiveness or something it's hard to teach.
Very.
I'm a very competitive person too, particularly when I was younger, and then we talk about technology, and I developed a lot of technology and stuff. I believed in it, but when the dust settles, you go, man, someone's really got to want to compete. They want to go and make something happen. Did you feel a sense of competing against people, or you were just driven to make yourself better?
Combination. First, I wanted to prove my dad that I can do this. I'm not coming back, and I don't need your money.
Right.
Well, as I did better and better, I kind of forgot about him. Mm-hmm. Then I met people around me, and if you're the only top producer in the room, there's a problem, right? So at one point, I was inspired by people, and then I'd grow them. I moved, and I outgrow them. So what I noticed, if you look at my past 18 years in doing this, I literally outgrown people around me.
Right.
It was never intentional, but at one point, every single person was someone I looked up to. And that I think what happened, I never said I want them not to have, but I said I want to be like them. And then when I got there, I was like, I want to be better than them.
Right.
And then I forgot about them.
Right.
And and I did a study when COVID hit. You had a lot of time, so we finished a bottle of wine every day. That's all we were doing, right? And learning what Zoom is.
Right.
So I did a study on LA County. I just pulled all the agents, top 150 agents, and I filtered out if anyone who's been in business less than 5 years. Because if you're lucky and you got a good year, I remove them.
Right.
Then I have an Excel sheet, and I put everybody's age, look, their religion, their background, their education, fill it out. It was a lot of work,
Sure.
And then I realized no matter what where they're coming from, their education level, they had 3 things all in common. One, they never worked for money. They were all about winning. None of them said, I'm going to work and I'm going to make $140,000 in commission. No one had a goal like that.
Right.
Everybody pretty much wanted to go to listing appointment, and I'm going to get this listing appointment. So if it's at $400,000 and all the other listings are $2 million, if the $400,000 seller said, I'm interviewing 4 agents, that agent said, hell no, I'm going to get this listing.
Right.
So that competitiveness you're referring to.
Yep.
Number 2, they were specializing in something which is local. They were somehow that a fame in that zip code in a city for the product they sell. They were specializing in something. None of them were like, I'll just do whatever I want, wherever I want.
Right.
And the third, they were in some kind of coaching association with someone.
Right.
They were like learning based, whether they learn or no, but they were in learning base. So that's where through COVID, I decided that I started that technology company. I said, what do they need?
Well, it's an interesting thing you'd say that because over history in real estate, the companies have become much less central to the discussion, if that makes any sense or not. And the individual salespeople have become more and more islands. And it's actually taught. And honestly, it's not the best thing, but it's what companies have done, frankly, so they could survive. If I could say it's all about you, Harma, the world evolves, be your own brand, it enabled me as an owner to say that I don't have to spend the money, then I don't have to worry about it, you can do it, and you be in charge. The bad news is that it's hard to be 10,000 different companies in the San Fernando Valley. You got SRA, the local association here, 10,000 members, and you're trying to distinguish yourself among 10,000 people. What if there were 10,000 car makers or 10,000 grocery stores? And you think about how hard it would be to distinguish, that difference. So
very true.
It's so this idea that you want to spread yourself out. Now, add to that the MLS has started sharing data. And that's pulling people further and further away from a central spot. So you think, how can I be different in Los Angeles to 10 million people over this huge area? It's impossible to do. So to be localized, like you're talking about, just made a lot of sense to me. And apparently you found to be the same thing. Yeah,
you can't be good in everything, right? So sooner you know what that is, then you can develop a better skill set. So question, have you ever, when you go to have a surgery, I hope no one needs a surgery, but when you need a surgery, you're like, I need to have a shoulder surgery. I'm not going to say, oh, you do shoulder surgery, where the closest person to my zip code, I'll go there.
Right.
I'm like, who is the best one? What hospital? And then how many? What is your social, and now you can check out people's review everywhere, right? So no matter what it is, you want that reputation, the experience.
Right.
So, but you can't say I do shoulder and I do Botox and I'm a dentist too.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
And you can't spread yourself so thin. I mean, people only have so much money, so much time. So I got to develop some method of getting with the resource I have to let people know about me, right? And to try to be all over America. Hell, I mean, companies can't do that. You can't spend enough money to do that, right? So you see a company like Purple Brick came in as an example, and they were boom, and they're big. They're big in Europe, and so they came here and just spent all their money just instantly trying to advertise to the whole world when there's only a few thousand deals done. It's like it was just too much.
And they started with some cities that they didn't have enough transactions.
Right.
And
that's my point.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like advertising heavily. It's like, and then guess what? That's great because that's a shiny things that agents love. Agents love new shiny thing. Right. And then they don't even understand what it is, right? So usually when someone knocks on my door and says, I have a product, I'm like, what about show me 6 more people in 6 months are still with you? Right. Because I've seen it last 18 years, so many companies.
So what'd you take from this idea of 150 people being localized, looking for some coaching, and had some competitiveness?
Well, they all had some kind of method of farming, right?
Yeah.
Farming was a very big deal. And you actually really helped my office when I started as a manager you embedded that in I farmed, and then I made sure I was like, okay, it's good. I'm not crazy. There's someone else who's like does 10 times more. So farming was big, and I also was writing down ideas, and I was just being funny, and I wrote down after maybe, I don't know, 2 glasses of wine, and I wrote, agents will do anything to do nothing.
Right.
And he said, well, that's so true. They'd rather pay Redfin, Zillow, 35% referral fee to get the lead, and then they don't know them, and then have to beg them, and then they might have to give them some credit, and then they close the transaction. They take credit. I just sold that.
Right.
It's like, did you really?
Yeah. Right.
And
it shows you the value of finding a lead when you're willing to give up 30, 40% to get a lead.
And then the broker gets something, and then you have a cost, right? And it's interesting because then you have to have a track record to get those leads.
Right.
But the track record agent doesn't service the lead, passes to someone else. So the passes the junior agent who gets nothing.
Yes.
And then they're all like so happy.
Right.
For a very short period of time.
Right.
And that's not a business I want to own. I just open a dry cleaning. I'm good with that. So because I'll make more money. If you look at, I issue 1099s, I have like a few hundred agents, and it's not true what you see outside, right? And so I learned that if their agents will do anything to do nothing, what about I create a product that will do things for them? So I created this, by the way, it's 2 years and I'm still working on it. It's not all perfect. We have like 180 agents now that are using the product. And it's an automated farming tool, sends emails, letters, voicemails, and text, and follows up with the consumers, whether it's an absentee owners or regular homeowner. And so it makes it look like that I'm really the local expert.
Right.
And now we were actually having a mastermind today with my leadership team of the tech company. And they said, we're having a hard time with agents because we give them a little bit and they're like, oh, I like it a little bit different. We get them a little bit different. They're like, I want to customize everything.
Right.
And I said, well, pull their production. They said, what do you mean? I said, pull those agents' production. They pulled, they're like, oh my God, they're all 6 million, 4 million.
Right.
I said, those are the agents. They're so caught up, my logo, my brand, how my flyer will look, they don't do anything.
That's right.
What you did, for example, which I'm inspired and trying to implement that in our current company, is here your flyer. What's your excuse? Here your flag for 4th of July.
Right.
Your picture is on it. What's your excuse?
Well, it's funny you just said that, something I can do for my agents because they won't do it. And
exactly.
it's literally how, I created the first CRM system in real estate. And 2 things about it. One is that it needed to be done. 2 is getting it implemented. That's hard to do.
Very. The adoption on agent, absolutely.
And so one of my old salespeople approached me maybe 2 years ago and said, do you find it interesting that we had more people in our company using the CRM system in the late 80s than you do today? And I said, it's simple. One, the reason I did it was to help my agents. I thought, this is a way that I can help them find business. That I looked at my own personal career and I go, I really hurt myself but not doing a better job of following up with everything, clients, leads, all that stuff like that. So if we can find a way to systemize this to be better, I'd learned about computers, got into it, and boom, all of a sudden it came up with this idea about the CRM system. And so we started that. And then all of a sudden I realized that years past, there was no competition. It was so much easier for me to get people to use my system because there was no other systems to use. This was it. They weren't, and if they told me about a feature, I would just run upstairs to my tech guys and have them build it. And so one of the things that was really interesting, and maybe even in your future, was looking back and saying, anytime somebody in my office reached the point with the CRM that they didn't know what to do, they could stick their head up over their cubicle and say, hey, how do you do this? The same way they do with MLS. There's only one MLS. So it's easy to solve the problem and move on and get good at it. We only had one CRM. So one of the biggest problems you guys in business today have is there's just too many options.
And I'm just talking about this with someone because they're like, what technology do you offer? I said, why? Do you use any? He was like, no. I said, you'll be fine. You don't need any. Because if you don't, or someone said a few years ago, Top Producer, the software, it's not user-friendly. I said, I totally agree. You just have to use it, then becomes user-friendly.
Right.
Just not, right? So the idea of technologies right now, first of all, I'm very, very against any real estate company that comes out there and says, we're a technology company. It's like, why? What happened to real estate? Are we shutting down?
Right.
Because technology is this overused word that people think that if you don't have it, you will die. If technology is not designed to replace us, it's designed to increase the efficiency.
That's right.
That you can have production.
That's
people
exactly
think
right.
technology will replace me or my effort, so the production will just magically goes up. I'm like, no. So if you have a technology that does the best thing, the easiest, user-friendly, pretty, cheapest, doesn't matter. If you close a transaction and you don't put your sellers, buyers, cell phone numbers, emails, phone numbers, birthdays in, what do you want the technology to do? Like call your mother? You know, how many people do you know? You got to add to it,
That's
right?
right.
So they don't. So one of the things I learned, back to agents will do anything to do nothing, I said, you know what, with my new company, I'm going to have a technology director full-time, physically in the office. They will load your database. They will set you up. Once a month, you should have like a haircut. Come to the office, 30 minutes, Ethan, someone else will just sit with you and just walk you through the database. If you're missing, you have 10 closings and you only put 4, it's going to be like, hey, where is your other 6?
It's a great idea.
So just to do it for them, because I believe if they have that in system in place, the business will come, referrals will come. They just don't use it. And I'm talking about big agents don't use it.
Oh, I know. But it's what you're doing is a great idea.
It's overwhelming, right? It's overused, the word technology.
It grossly so. And like I said, I probably spent more money individually than anybody I know in real estate on technology. So I'm a huge believer in it, but you can't miss the point. You know, I tell people today, real estate is really, fundamentally we manage information and we sell credibility. That's the job. Go be credible and then manage the information. And the whole idea of, when I got into technology, because back in the 80s, I was watching other industries, manufacturing, stock world, insurance, all these guys were getting into computers. And the whole idea was that I could do more. I could produce more widgets in the same amount of time as I could without that automation or computer. And I saw a thing that Joel Singer, who was the CEO of California Association of Realtors, he had a statement in one of their magazines one time, and he says, the real estate industry is the one industry where the technology doesn't seem to have increased the rate of productivity on average, right? So it's an interesting thing where, keep in mind, this is to do more widgets per day, per year, per whatever. And so what's the widget? The widget is information and knowledge about people that you should manage. I mean, that's it. And it's very simple, but people want to overcomplicate it.
And we misunderstood that process. Many years ago, we start funding a company that gives us lead back because we chose not to do
That's
what
right.
it is.
That's exactly
that we
right.
make this big company out there that we are very afraid of, which we allow them to have our data that I work hard to get the
Yeah,
listing.
I don't like Zillow either. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. It's just fascinating that the technology intimidated so many agents. They're like, oh, I'm going to sign up for Zillow. I'm like, well, you're funding it. But then you and me talk about this a lot. So you see where that is. But now it's interesting. 2 years ago, if you call them, they're like, oh, get in line. We have a language. They're calling now, right?
Yeah, they're begging
and
now.
It's whatever goes up comes down.
They just lost $31 billion in market value. $31 billion. And if you think about it, and I may have said this to you once before, but just in the last year, they've lost more value than it would have cost to buy the whole real estate industry. $31 billion. You could buy all of them. You could buy all of Co-Bank or Realogy for $1 billion now. You could buy
all the active
Redfin
listings
for
can be
$1 billion.
Zillow
Yeah, exactly.
overnight.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you know what? Let's transition here. So, so you did well, and you started selling. You were obviously deeply motivated. You got into real estate. Was an opportunity to be exceptional. And not have to have spent years and going in debt to go to school. It's an opportunity for someone in your set of circumstances. And you jumped on it, and so then you sold, you did good, and then you transitioned into management. Normally, the kiss of death.
Yeah,
But
you make less money when you're in leadership.
But you did it.
I did it. Yeah.
And you did very well at it. So how did that happen? You were with Keller Williams.
They said no to me. Few people that you already know, some of them, they're no longer around.
Yeah.
They said no to me, and then that really triggered me. And then I was broke. I remember I made $740,000 in GCI in 2006. market crash, and I was making more money. I was getting foreclosures, and I had no money in my bank account. I was behind on my taxes, and I just didn't know how to keep it. I didn't have a budget, and all I wanted to learn, because I didn't go to school, I thought that because of lack of knowledge or education, I'm just an idiot. I'm not running this as like a business. So I said, if I become a manager, I will learn. By the way, I don't like manager. In leadership role and lead people, I will learn to be lead like an example. So they wouldn't hire me. They wouldn't hire me. Many people, too short, too gay, too Persian, all that. I'm not even Persian. I said, okay, fine. I wrote a check. I said, if you hear my check, hire me and let me be if I don't do a good job, I paid myself, fire me. And here's my plan for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and 3 years. And I had a PowerPoint. I still have it. And someone believed in me. They hired me, and the office had $250,000 in loss. They had one agent who was producer out of 29, and that one agent was the manager.
Right.
And they said our model says the manager has to go. I said, oh, it's the only producer. She's not going. We need it.
Right.
And that's where you and me met, and that I fell in love with the role. First 6 months was very difficult. I talked so much because I thought, this is great. I'm getting paid and I get to talk about myself. And then I learned it's not about me, it's about them. Then I learned about what you hear. You believe 25% what you hear. And,
right.
And you know, go with your gut, and 50% what you see. And that was a lesson. Then I learned that...
I think what you learned, don't let me get you wrong here, but what you learned is you can make a lot of mistakes as long as you keep fighting, right?
Absolutely.
You keep pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a doer, so that's how I learned.
Yep.
A lot of people read and then they start.
Yep.
I just do, and I'm like, oops, that didn't work. I can name more things didn't work than what worked.
Right.
And because I took action. So I have great branch managers right now, and they're really work hard. But every time they're like, oh, I don't know, I was thinking. I was like, no.
Yeah.
The fact you thought, you already lost.
I was kind of like you. I started my company. I was 25 when I first started the company, and I was a top producer for the largest company in California. And so, you know, like you, I thought I knew it all.
Exactly.
And then you jump in, and then when I started my company, I realized, boy, I know a lot about selling. The rest of this crap, man, I am lost. And it scared the hell out of me. And that's just the truth. And the next thing you know, I got obsessed with, I was embarrassed to go someplace where there were going to be adults in real estate that I would have to talk to. And I was always afraid. I didn't want to get there and be embarrassed. That was my big thing. I've got to know. So I got obsessed with learning. And to this day, it's just a shitty habit. I mean, I can't help. I've got to know. And you know that probably about me. I'm reading, searching, talking, always because I don't want to not know something. And you have that in you, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a very, you and me, even last few years with all the changes, I'm like, called you, I'm like, what do you think about this? Because, you know, it gets lonely, especially with my role. And last few years has been tough for me to who to trust and who to talk to. It's well.
So then you went into. So you finally got into management.
Correct,
and then that evolved into multiple.
I ended up purchasing real estate offices. Got into business with multiple people, different locations.
Right.
I was the operating principal, the front. You know, I had partners, different skill set the partners had, and mine was running the company and being the front recruiter, coacher, and all that.
Right.
And at one point, I will say the Valley had like very few agents, and then when I had all 3 offices here, we were like around 1,100.
Yeah, I mean, Keller Williams probably after you got involved, and I'm sure other people had something to do with it too, but you were a big piece of it. I mean, they went from a few hundred people to 1,000 people.
Correct.
A lot of that was you. It really was. I mean, as an outsider looking in, I know, and talking to people, that you were the engine.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved it. I loved building new people, and it obviously. Look, I have staff right now. I have agents with me, 14 years, 15 years, 13 years, 12 years. I can name many. Over 100 of them. They've been with me over 10 years.
Right.
So I enjoyed that compliment really much.
Yeah. You know, it's an interesting thing I read. that Steve Jobs said one time, and that is that great brands are polarizing by nature. You're either attracted to them or you're repelled from them. And either way, it's deep and it's real. And you've been real. You're you. You're authentically you. And it's been very attractive to people that have been loyal to you for a long time, deeply real. And of course, like all of us, you have some people who probably don't have the same feeling. But at least it's an authentic reason to like or not like you. I love that.
Yeah, you don't ask for my opinion. I won't give my opinion if you don't ask.
Right.
But but if agent knocks on my door and says, "Can you coach me?" We dive in. We're gonna go get the truth. So you don't walk away like, does it mean that? Never.
Right.
No one around me says that.
Yep.
And it's easier. It's just I go home like less tired. I go home not worry about what did I say to this person. The same thing with our split, the cap, and anything we offer. It's like one thing. If you're there, I believe if agents come in for money, they leave for money.
Right.
So there's no money conversation.
I used to say, if you feed the monster grows.
Exactly. There's no conversation. I'm very grateful for my agents being loyal and awesome. But if it's about me, we might be great people. We're just not a match.
Yeah. It's always about a balance between, the value you give to them and what they can bring back to you. And you got to figure that balance out.
It's in everything, right?
Yeah.
When you fly first class, let's assume the prices are the same. Why would you sit in a coach when you can't be in the first class? Oh, you don't, because it's more expensive.
Right.
And they give you food, which is sometimes really disgusting, but they give you better seats. And so you pay or you don't, and assume everyone can afford it. Some people will never pay that. They're like, I'm okay. But there's a value.
Value's not there.
And if you notice, it's always smaller first class, bigger, because most people either can't afford or they don't see it.
Right.
By the way, I sat in the back all my life. So I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying you have to decide what it is and stick to it. The biggest mistake I see most real estate companies make, that they start with one.
Right.
And then when they grow, they start changing their model.
Right.
And
That's
now
true.
they're like Walmart. They do anything anyone
Very
does.
true. I think it was one of the problems that RE/MAX ran into in general is after the market crashed. And they had strayed from that pure RE/MAX model. Mm-hmm. And you're with Keller Williams. It's probably one of the better things about Keller Williams, that they've been able to establish whatever their model was, good or bad, it was truly Keller Williams. And they've done a good job of being that. And it seems to me every time you've gotten into areas, and I've watched this across the country, where people have strayed from the pure model, they get lost.
Mm-hmm. In any
yes,
company, right?
Any company.
In anything,
That's
stick
true.
to what has been working. I'm not saying don't evolve.
Exactly.
Just saying you can't change your business model just because the new purple brick came and I'm like, oh, we're going to go buy now property because that's what they're doing.
That's right.
Then what happens, if you're building your muscles based on your staff, based on what your value proposition, you've been training them, and then bam, everybody dropped, switch your skill set, we're going to go in a different level. It's like, what do you think the agents will feel that they came in for the first value proposition?
That authenticity's gone.
Completely. Stick to that, and you're never as a broker going to have 50% market share, right? So stop trying to win it all. And not everyone, we can love each other, but we don't have to be in business with each other.
Right.
And that's where, you see how many new companies come, and right now it's already struggling, right? And my coach told me this one time, because like, win slow so it's longer. And I couldn't understand. It was also, I was doing a deal that didn't go through, and that was a big deal for me. And I was very upset. And he said, Harma, the best deals are the ones that are not made. I was so angry. I didn't even understand what he said. I said, are you crazy? Like, this is not the right time for me to hear that.
Right.
And then
I just lost money.
6 months later, I was like, oh my God, I'm so blessed that deal didn't go through, because appeared. And trust your gut. Like I will say, trust your gut. And that's why when I meet people, it's just like I'm very detached that what will happen. So almost they feel like, does he not want me? I'm like, no, I want to get to know you.
Right.
We might not be a right fit.
Right.
And I'm very grateful with the big change that we went through, that they all had choices, They had a lot of choices.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because that's one of the reasons that you're here. That's the reason you're here, because I want to talk about business models. And you you've done something, because to cap off that part of your career is you ended up going from having part of multiple Keller Williams offices down to having one,
Correct.
basically, right? But you had all of that one, or most of all that one, and instead of pieces of others. And then you grew that to, what, 400 agents?
503. 500
agents. And by the way, that's one of the interesting differences today in real estate compared to the old days. I had 600-700 agents, but I had 14 offices. You could do it with one office. It's a major, major change in just the fact that people will work from home now and all that stuff. So, all right, so you got into one, you got 400, and all of a sudden you surprise everyone and you decide you're going to drop all your franchise affiliation and go out and be an independent company. It's a massive change. I don't know anybody, it's probably happened, but I can't think of anyone who's done that, had a successful franchise. And you weren't a successful franchise. You weren't like a franchise. You're one of the top franchises.
Correct.
You dropped it.
Correct.
Started from scratch, go independent. Tell me what that was all about.
Well, I was with the company for 18 years.
Right.
And as I said earlier, I learned how to run a business, the budget, my life, it was built by them. Like, I'm 41, so 18 years of my life was with one company. So that's a long time.
Half.
Exactly. And so I learned so much from it. But sometimes if the things you want to offer or do, it doesn't fit with what you have to make a business decision. And for me, it came down to, do I make a completely different path right now, or continue this and not do this for too long? Because if I stayed on and continue with whatever the model we had was great, obviously we went to 500 people, then I knew that I won't be doing this for too long.
Right.
But if I stayed with the same concept, I wanted to do more. So I had to sit down and really do soul searching for a few months. And I have young 3 kids. So do I really want to take the time from them now? Because it's sacrifice, relationship, financially. It's a lot of commitments. It's not like just switch and you test everything the same. I'm working longer hours right now, and I have a little bit more energy than I ever thought I will have. So I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe it's just
fun and fear.
Exactly. Passion is back,
Yeah.
And I have I'm not scared. For some reason, my gut, it just tells me, and I'm very grateful with the amount of calls I'm getting from other companies, and so it's been great. But I needed to do something for myself. So the truth is, I became selfish. I thought about myself. I had an opportunity to sell the company, right, and say I'm done and get a paycheck, get a big paycheck maybe with a bigger company. I knew that if I do that, my agents will suffer. Their model will change for them, and I didn't want to do that. And I knew I'm not done. And what would I do? I'm workaholic. I like to get out of the house, and I'm a builder. So after many, many days of not talking to anyone, because you can't, and me and my partner decided, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we can't do a little bit. We're going to do it right, and we're going to do it big. And we very gracefully told the company that we're going to move on. I was very grateful with their initial calls, and they're very. It wasn't anything bad. I just decided to move on.
Right.
I understand we had big agent count. There's some decided to stay with the company.
But you basically reached the point to where the franchise agreement you had just expired.
Correct.
So now you really had to think about, do I want to continue? Or it was really a moment in time that made you kind of look at yourself and say, I hadn't thought about this in the last couple of years, but now that I have to?
That was the moment.
It was a moment.
It was just a moment. And otherwise it was 10 more years.
Right.
10 more years, I'll be 51. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's really
old.
It's people don't want to be married for 10 years. So I don't know if I want to be, and so it wasn't about the company. It was not going where I want to go. It's more about where I want to go.
Right.
And so it was more exciting.
Is where you want to go, did that also include what you felt you could do for agents that maybe within the old model there was some limitations that as an independent you could kind of expand that?
It's all combined. I couldn't do more because either financially I couldn't, or when you believe in something or you are part of a company, you have to adapt 100%. You can't say, I'm just going to pick a little bit I want. While you're paying for it, you better take advantage of it.
Right.
So I just knew that I'm also, as you mentioned, at one office, one franchise. If I want to expand, if I want to go open somewhere in Palm Springs, or I want to go to North California, or I bought a house in Hawaii, I want to do real estate, it was just, I'm not going to own my company, it's just going to be an agent. So it's a territory base, and should be. If I ever open a franchise, I will have a territory base. That I was limited. But more importantly, I wanted to offer more to my agents. And I wanted to become a farming office and leading listing agent that in every zip code. I wanted to own the most listings that would create more volume, creates more reputation. And I wanted to be part of the community that I have an office in. So it was, okay, how do I do that?
You keep going back to that. You keep going back to local and deeper into the local area.
Well, I had few agents.
That's interesting to me, by the way.
We had few agents with me yesterday morning, and they were talking about what to use, technology, product. We're just sitting there, and I said, where do you sell? Where do you sell? They all told me their city, that there were 3 cities, Sherman Oaks, I think one was Granda Hills, one was Woodland Hills. I said, tell me something, just in June, how many units were sold in your city that you love? They didn't know.
Right.
I said, so why does it matter what technology you use when you really don't know the market share? So going back, I want to implement that. I want to make sure the agents understand where they sell, what is the data, because if I'm going to sell my property, I want to have an agent, not my friend. I want this listing agent who knows the market share.
Right.
So the knowledge is missing. So I can't just switch with model and say we're going to be farming office when I don't have the resources. I actually recently, besides the technology director that I hired a lady that she's all day long, and she told me recently there's been 14 hours a day, and I said we will hire someone else because we're growing rapidly and she can't keep up. So when the agent come to our office, they're in the morning by 9:30 a.m., listings are distributed in office. So we get, like this morning, we had 11 listings. So 11 listings in office, agents will get their social media content made with their logo, their phone numbers and all that. So by 9:30, agent, when they wake up, because some of them wake up at 9:30, will get their email with the content ready so the agent can post. So because all I heard for last few years, I wish I can hire a social media person. I'm like, why? Well, I want them content. It wasn't like who posted. So I said, here you go, I hire someone for your content. Here you go. The whole idea was the company, I can do things so they don't have to worry about it. Because I do believe in 10 years, real estate will be very different. It will be like a cloud-based, I'll give you a few $100s per file, leave me alone and I'll do whatever I want. And then my philosophy on that is like, well, some sellers will care about that, reduce commission and all that. Or some sellers will be like, I don't want to work with this company because who's the leadership, bad reputation, I don't want to work with them. And then some will be a boutique company that they legit, their business is like there's a branch manager, there's an office building, and the broker is doing things. There's as I said earlier, what is it that they pay for? So the value proposition I have is like we will chop out the services that you can use or don't use, and they're skilled and trained. And especially we're in California, I don't think agents understand in 5 years having an employee is so difficult, and the liability that they have to carry. And they don't want to. If you ask them, they're like, we don't want to hire them. We don't know how to train them. We don't know how to keep them. And every wrong hire costs 9 months. So they don't want to deal with it. So if I just hire the right person and do the job for them, they won't leave me.
Right. So Keller Williams franchise came up. You said, okay, well, I think I'm going to go this direction. And I want to go this direction because I think I can do things a little differently. I think I can be something more for the agents. And then Equity Union was born. Okay. So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I know that moment where you're teetering, and one of the things were, and I know this comes up, but Keller Williams is such a well-known name. You know, no one's going to know Equity Union. That's going to be bad. And one of the things I always felt, because, when I started my company, no one had ever heard of the name before. And I've helped open a bunch of companies that are independent. And one of the things I always tell them is that now you have a chance to be a company that has no negative things said about it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing negative. You literally get to be who you want to be now.
Correct.
Define it. It's going to look exactly the way you want it to look, and your agents want it to look, right? So what's that look like? What's Equity Union look like?
Well, last year, our company, under Keller Williams, did 2+ billion. We were the number one in units, so we have huge market share, right?
Number one.
We did 1,500 units close as an individual company. No other company does that, right? You can combine a bunch of them. No one office did that.
Right.
And so it's a lot of volume.
Right.
Although we had some agents that they decided for many reasons to move on, or some they didn't. It doesn't matter. We had 432 agents that decided to stay on, and
that's 85% of the group said, no, I like this idea of a new name. I like this idea of your new vision. And of that chunk that did go, they left in chunks, right? It was like
there was one big team, and then some of them spread at different places.
Right. So I mean, it was really a half a dozen decisions to leave. It wasn't 100.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it was not. And few of them, it was.
I mean, half a dozen, meaning that I made a decision to leave, and so my 30 people are going with me.
Correct, absolutely.
That's one decision, 30 people.
It was done before I left.
Right.
That decision for that individual was made way before me, and he didn't leave Harma. And I wish him the best. He's going to do well regardless.
Right.
And he's just had to do what's best for him. And I had, as you said, I had one day to decide, do I want 10 more years or this? And he didn't have that pressure, so he explored and he did what's best for him. But what's interesting that out of all these agents, that initially there was some fear, and because of the calls from others, like, well, the brand is, no one knows the brand.
Right.
And was lots of conversation to tell them, you can go and see where we are and come back. My doors will be open. Or you can see, this is what I have done 18 years ago. There was no company here, and I built it. I also know a few other companies that they didn't exist 5 years ago in our market share, and now they do. It's doable. I'm just not going to buy the agents to do it. I'm going to do it individually. And the whole company's philosophy right now, our Equity Union, is focus on the agents. We don't focus on the buyers and sellers. If my agents do a good job, the buyers and sellers will get the best service.
We'll be served well.
Yeah. So we're focused exactly on agent. And we had an agent last Wednesday, the 60 million producer, came from a company in the West Side. And honestly, the conversation was 22 minutes. I walked out very nicely, very professional. And he says, are you guys going to give me a proposal? I just said, I don't know if we're a match. We're just not a match. So remember how producer, I don't want me to focus on what I used to, that I needed to survive. I just want to be focused on the right places.
Well, it gets back to what we were talking about. If you're going to be Equity Union now, you need to be Equity Union. And that means that not everyone's going to match that vision.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want my agents to worry about what's on their desk. You don't have to worry about cleaning up your desk and worry about anyone will look at it. It's the culture of the company. It's so important. And I'm not the culture. We're all the culture. I can inspire one person, but the environment has to be inspiring for everyone else.
Right.
So if the one bad apple comes in, it's just going to destroy what I have been working on.
Right.
So we opened Woodland Hills right after that, and we're going to announce Brentwood soon.
You just did.
I did. I don't know where this is going to be aired, but yeah.
No, it's going to be all over the world.
Oh,
we have billions of listeners. Did you know
wow.
that?
That's awesome. They all going to know today.
So Woodland Hills is opening up.
It's open.
Already open.
Yeah. We have 39 agents that they joined. Great agents.
New facility. Okay.
Beautiful. 7,000 square feet.
Who's managing that group for you?
So
who's leading that group for you?
There's a branch manager, and then he reports to my general manager, Dan, and then I have a VP of operation. And we divided the organizational chart. We have a growth, and we have an operation, and then we have finance, and then marketing falls under the GM. And marketing department has 5 people. We are having hard time hiring people. We can't find anyone who wants to work.
Administrative people.
Yes, administrative people. And and I'm very slow in hire. I'm very fast in fire. So when COVID hit, we didn't let go anyone. We didn't reduce. We didn't do any of that. So it's important for me to not hire the wrong person, because I don't like the changes. And we spend a lot of time training them. So I want to make sure we hire the right person. But hopefully, when its market is changing, we'll find some talent.
Well, it's all about people. Always about people.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Now, I fit into your general perception of what kind of agent you'd like to have. Why should I work for Equity Union? I could go to Coldwell Banker. I can go to
Absolutely.
Century 21. I can go to lots of places. Why would I come there?
So we divided that to three part. One is full support. When I say that, not like, oh, marketing department will give you flyer. No, not nonsense. I'm talking about if you say, I really want to sit down here and expand 2 to 4 units in the valley and farm. What letter goes out? Here are the letters written, the scripts, the database that you need to call, phone numbers and emails. Don't call the title. Here we go. Because I own a technology company and I have all the information. And if you want to do your technology director, your social media marketer, and your productivity coach, we have it all that. So it comes to support full on. And then, of course, I have a compliance broker, and then we have attorneys and on and on and on. But I'm talking about active physically in the office. They get paid well and they are working their head off. Then I have the second part is that's all about the culture of the office. So if we are launching the REO department and you want to learn the REO, my top agent, Marty, will be sitting there and teaching you what REOs are. So we're proactive on that. If it's a farming class, what is it? The co-caller comes in and teaches. So there's no cost, and we're physically in the office doing that. I don't compete with any other company, Coldwell Banker, Compass, Keller Williams. I'm just focusing on what we're going to do. And the third part is where my passion comes in, because this too has to work before my third passion comes in. And that is that 85% of realtors don't have a home. They're renting. And no one told me that when I started in real estate. I didn't realize until I was
85%?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they don't. The other 15% have a bunch of investment, but the other 85% don't have it. They can't even keep up.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
That, by the way, is one of the changes that I say is that the middle class of real estate I've seen kind of start to diminish. You're having the superstars and the people that are doing a few. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's getting thinner and thinner. And so my goal is we have a corporate office coming up, creating a training room, having courses throughout the year private, and that is taught by me bringing a specializing person who does that, like creates investment firms and all that. I'm going to pay them, and the courses will be based on, let's create your budget and let's learn what's deductible, what's not. Let's lead by revenue. We talk about it before, but we don't get to do it.
Right.
And I created tools that if I find a property and you don't have the finances, I'll buy it cash. Keep it in escrow. You can buy it back, because if we can buy it, reduce the commission 5%, buy it as is, no loan contingency, 7% below market, $420,000 condo in Sherman Oaks. That's an investment anyone can do. I'll help you purchase this.
Yes.
Because my idea is, like, if I help them create wealth, they won't leave me. My entire goal is they don't leave me.
Right.
And so that's the third, but I can't get there until they run their business like a business.
Right.
So that's the 3 different part of, and again, as I said, if someone says, I hate farming, I don't like people, I don't like to come in, don't bother me, I hate everything you guys do.
Go someplace else.
Go Banker, Compass, they go, we're not a corporate, but we have policy and guidelines, and policy guidelines is like, if you're not a fit, it's okay.
And you have to. I mean, any reasonable person understands that if you're going to have anything more than one person, you need some rules.
100%.
Especially when you start to have a business that you want to have definition. Mm-hmm. Like you said, to be authentically that. Yeah. To be, as Steve Jobs said, a compelling brand.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, you've given me a lot of time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for doing
and I
this.
wish
This
you a
means a
ton
lot.
of luck with what you're doing, and hopefully people out there will have a chance to watch this and maybe come talk to you about what you're doing and see if it works for them.
I'm very, very grateful that you did this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks,
talk to you
Jason.
soon.
Thank you.